0400 hours, Forward Airbase, Eastern France. The airfield lies shrouded in pre-dawn darkness. Freezing fog clings to the asphalt, dampening sound but amplifying the biting cold. Massive halogen floodlights cut through the mist, creating cones of harsh white light against the black tarmac. The air hangs heavy with the chemical sting of aviation fuel, hydraulic fluid, and wet concrete. A silence hangs over the base, but it is artificial. It is the deep breath before a scream. Activity erupts on the flight line. Ground crews swarm around the parked aircraft like frantic worker ants. Heavy tractors rumble across the concrete, towing yellow carts stacked high with green steel cylinders. These are not standard dumb bombs. They are advanced glide munitions, fitted with extending wing kits and satellite guidance noses. A flight line officer signals with glowing orange batons, directing the carts toward the waiting squadron. Hydraulic lifts whine as they raise the heavy munitions toward the hard points. Mechanics guide the steel fins into place with practiced precision. Metal clanks against metal. A technician slams a locking latch shut. He tugs the fin violently to ensure it holds. It does not budge. On the next pylon, another team hoists a twin weapon. The sheer volume of ordnance is staggering. Row after row of fighter jets wait to be fed. The bombs hang heavy under the wings, bristling with guidance sensors. Ground wires snake across the ground, connecting diagnostic computers to the aircraft. Green lights flicker on the pylons. The weapon systems interface with the jets. Data uploads. Coordinates transfer. The squadron commander walks the line. He inspects the payload on the lead jet, his breath visible in the cold air. He runs a gloved hand over the cold steel nose of a glide bomb. He nods to the crew chief. The loadout is confirmed. Maximum density. The fueling hoses detach with a sharp hiss. Canopies catch the reflection of the floodlights. The beast is awake. 0500 hours, main runway. The eastern horizon shows the faintest bruise of purple, but the tarmac remains black. The cold air vibrates. Inside the cockpits, pilots strap into ejection seats. Harnesses click. Oxygen masks snap into place. Visors slide down. The canopy glass lowers, sealing the men inside their machines. A low whine begins, spinning up from a murmur to a piercing shriek. Auxiliary power units engage. Green lights flash across instrument panels. The ground crew pulls the chocks from the wheels and sprints to the safety of the grass. The lead fighter jet taxis forward. Its exhaust nozzles dilate. A twin tongue of blue flame erupts from the rear. The heat distorts the air, rippling the view of the hangars behind. Another jet follows. Then another. They line up on the runway in an echelon formation. A staggered row of composite armor and high explosives. The noise is physical. It rattles the teeth of the observers in the tower. It shakes the dust from the runway lights. The flight commander pushes the throttle forward. The engines roar. The sound tears the morning apart. The lead jet lurches. The tires bite into the asphalt. It surges forward, gathering speed with terrifying pace. The pilot is pressed back into his seat. The nose wheel lifts. The main gear leaves the ground. The jet punches a hole through the damp air, climbing sharply. The second jet follows instantly. Then the third. A continuous chain of thunder rolls down the runway. 20 aircraft scream into the sky. Their afterburners glow like angry eyes in the twilight. They bank hard to the east, their wings slicing through the heavy cloud layer. The formation tightens. They are no longer individual machines. They are a single heavy hammer raised to strike. The runway lights blur and fade below them. The landing gear retracts with a heavy thud. The noise of their departure echoes across the countryside long after they vanish into the gray ceiling. 0600 hours, Dnipro River, Kherson sector. A dense, milky fog sits heavy on the water, completely obscuring the riverbanks. The sun fights to penetrate the gray haze, casting a dull, flat light across the ripples. The air is damp and freezing. Two Ukrainian patrol boats glide downstream in a line-astern formation. Their camouflaged hulls glisten with condensation. The low thrum of diesel engines vibrates through the steel decks, disturbing the morning stillness. A heron takes flight from the reeds, its wings beating the air violently. On the lead boat, a lookout wipes moisture from his binoculars. He scans the muddy tree line. Nothing moves. The river seems empty. Crew members huddle in their parkas against the cold spray. A gunner checks the feed tray of the heavy machine gun. The brass ammunition belts rattle softly against the metal shield. The radar antenna spins rhythmically atop the cabin, sweeping endlessly for surface threats. It detects only the shoreline and the ghostly return of the second boat following close behind. The commander stands on the bridge wing. He leans over the railing, watching the wake churn white against the dark water. He lifts a radio handset, the static hisses. The wind shifts slightly, thinning the mist. The clouds above remain a solid leaden ceiling. There is no sound of aircraft. There is no warning siren. The water is glass. The patrol continues its slow rhythm, cutting a scar through the calm surface. 0610 hours, high altitude above Kherson region. 30,000 feet above the river, the sun is blinding. It reflects off the solid white deck of clouds below, creating a world of pure light. The French fighter jets cruise in the thin air. They are silent specks against the blue void. The formation spreads out, widening the attack vector. Condensation trails snap into existence behind their engines, instantly freezing into long white scars across the sky. Inside the lead cockpit, the pilot flips a switch on the main console. The heads-up display shifts from green navigation lines to red tactical symbology. A square box locks onto a set of invisible coordinates below the cloud layer. The targeting computer hums, processing wind speed, velocity, and drop angle. It feeds the data to the weapon pylons. Under the wings, the glide bombs wake up. Their internal gyroscopes spin. Thermal batteries activate. The guidance fins twitch, testing their range of motion. The weapon system signals ready. The pilot watches the range counter tick down. 30 miles. 20 miles. The release point approaches. He thumbs the safety cover on the stick. It clicks open. The formation holds steady, lined up perfectly with the river's flow. The calm before the drop is absolute. The machines are ready to shed their weight. 0612 hours, attack altitude. The cockpit displays flash release. A high-pitched tone screams in the pilot's headset. It is the only sound in the stratosphere. He squeezes the stick trigger. Thunk, thunk, thunk. Heavy mechanical clamps slam open under the wings. Gravity takes hold. The first dozen glide bombs drop from the pylons, tumbling momentarily in the violent slipstream. They clear the turbulence. The 250-kilogram steel casings stabilize. Spring-loaded mechanisms fire. Snap. Long, slender wings unfold from the bomb bodies like switchblades. Tail fins lock into place. The release ripples down the entire formation. Jet after jet lightens its load. The sky beneath the aircraft fills with dark shapes. 100, 200, 250 munitions detach in a synchronized wave. It looks like a flock of iron birds migrating instantly. The fighter jets bank hard to the left, their engines roaring as they climb to safety. They leave the weapons behind. The bombs do not roar. They have no engines. They simply glide. They adjust their pitch, dipping their noses toward the thick cloud deck below. The guidance computers make micro adjustments to the flaps. The swarm dives. They puncture the white cloud tops silently, disappearing into the gray mist, hunting for the heat of the river engines. 0614 hours, bridge of patrol boat Alpha. The bridge is quiet, save for the rhythmic hum of the ventilation fans. The radar operator leans back in his chair, taking a sip of coffee. The green sweep line on his monitor rotates lazily. It passes the north sector. Clear. It passes the east sector. Clear. It hits the vertical axis. A single red dot blinks into existence, then another, then 5. The operator frowns. He adjusts the gain knob. The screen flickers. Suddenly, the display floods with red. The upper quadrant is not showing individual targets. It is showing a solid wall of contact. The clutter algorithm fails. The system overloads. A digital warning box flashes, multiple inbound. The operator drops his mug. It shatters on the steel deck. He slams his hand on the general alarm button. Vampire! Vampire! Saturation attack inbound! He screams into the intercom. On the outer deck, the lookout freezes. A strange, hollow whistling sound penetrates the fog. It grows louder, shifting from a whisper to a roar like tearing canvas. He looks up. The gray cloud base punches open. Dark shapes pour through the mist, dozens of them. They do not fall straight down. They dive at steep angles, wings slicing the air. The sky above the river is no longer empty. It is black with falling iron. The alarm klaxon erupts, a deafening mechanical shriek that echoes off the water. 0615 hours, deck of patrol boat Alpha. The alarm klaxon tears through the air. The captain slams the throttle levers forward to the stops. The diesel engines roar in protest, belching thick black smoke into the mist. The sudden surge of power vibrates the entire steel frame of the vessel. Hard to starboard, flank speed, the captain yells over the noise. The helmsman spins the wheel. The hydraulic rudder slams over. The patrol boat heels violently to the right. The deck tilts at a 45-degree angle. Loose equipment slides across the floor. A coffee mug smashes against the bulkhead. Sailors grab railings to keep their footing. The hull shudders as the propellers bite deep into the muddy water, churning up a massive white wake. Behind them, patrol boat Bravo brakes hard to port. The formation splits. They tear away from each other, carving white scars into the dark river. They try to scatter the target profile. High above, the falling shapes react. The optical sensors in the nose cones of the glide bombs detect the movement. The guidance fins twitch. The swarm does not miss. It adjusts. The leading edge of the bomb wave banks slightly, tracking the heat of the engines. They align with the new vectors. The gap closes. The whistling sound deepens into a terrifying rush of wind. 06:16 hours, the river surface. The screaming wind terminates in a thunderous crack. The first wave of glide bombs slams into the water surrounding patrol boat Alpha. They do not hit the hull, yet. They strike the river like meteorites. Boom! 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 The surface of the Dnipro detonates. Massive columns of brown water and river mud shoot 300 feet into the air. The riverbed is torn open. The shockwaves travel faster than the spray, hammering against the steel sides of the patrol boat. The vessel is lifted bodily out of the water, then slammed back down. The air turns white with mist. Shrapnel winds through the fog, cutting through the railings and radar mast. The water churns into a violent froth. A bomb strikes the bank 20 meters away. Earth and trees are hurled into the sky. A shockwave of compressed air sweeps across the deck, knocking 2 sailors off their feet. They slide across the wet metal, crashing into the ammunition lockers. The sound is continuous. It is not distinct explosions anymore. It is a rolling roar of destruction. The water boils. The boat is trapped in a cage of rising geysers. The helmsman fights the wheel, but the propeller chops at air as the stern is lifted by a near miss. The river is being beaten into submission. 06:17 hours, amidships, patrol boat Alpha. The vessel lists heavily to starboard, reeling from the hydraulic hammer of the near misses. Water cascades off the superstructure like a waterfall. The air smells of ozone and cordite. A gunner on the rear deck desperately swings the heavy machine gun toward the sky. He fires a burst. The tracers streak uselessly into the fog. The incoming shapes are too fast. They are too heavy. The first glide bomb strikes the forward gun turret. Crack, boom. The impact is deafening. The steel nose of the bomb punches through the armored deck plating like a nail through wood. It buries itself deep in the hull before detonating. The explosion tears the bow of the ship apart. Plates of steel, weighing tons, are hurled spinning into the air. The forward section of the boat simply ceases to exist. The momentum carries the vessel forward, burying the broken nose into the water. The stern rises. 2 more bombs strike simultaneously. One hits the bridge. One hits the engine compartment. The result is absolute. The fuel tanks ignite instantly. A massive fireball erupts, expanding outward in a sphere of orange and black. It engulfs the entire superstructure. The bridge disintegrates. Glass shards, radar equipment, and human bodies are blasted outward into the river. The roar of the explosion drowns out the screaming engines. The hull snaps in half with a groan of twisting metal that vibrates the air. The stern section lifts vertical, the propeller still spinning wildly in the empty air before crashing down. Thick black smoke billows instantly, choking the fog. There is no boat left. There is only a burning oil slick and a field of floating debris. 16-18 hours, the burning river. Thick black smoke rolls across the water, choking the daylight. The air is hot and heavy with the smell of burning diesel and charred plastic. Patrol boat. Bravo smashes through the expanding ring of fire where its sister ship used to be. The hull bangs violently against floating debris. Twisted metal plates and torn life jackets scrape along the sides of the vessel. The propeller churns through the oil slick, kicking up a dirty black spray. On the bridge, the captain grips the wheel with white knuckles. He spins it hard to the left. The boat careens toward the muddy riverbank. He screams commands into the intercom, but the noise of the barrage drowns him out. The water around them is a minefield of geysers. Explosions walk across the surface, getting closer with every second. Boom! A bomb detonates 10 yards off the port bow. The shockwave hammers the vessel. The armored glass of the bridge windows shatters inward. Shards spray the crew. The radar mast shears off and crashes onto the deck. The boat lurches violently, the keel lifting out of the water. It slams back down with a bone-jarring crunch. Above the smoke, the remaining glide bombs adjust their flight paths. The guidance computers calculate the new trajectory. They do not need to see the boat. They track the heat signature through the smoke. The fins make micro-corrections. The nose cones dip. The swarm converges. "Brace for impact!" a sailor yells from the deck. He dives behind a steel bulkhead. The boat is no longer moving fast enough. The mud from the shallow bank slows them down. The engine whines, overheating. The shadow of the falling ordnance falls over the deck. The whistling sound returns, louder than before. It is a chorus of screaming metal. The sky falls. 0619 hours, patrol boat Bravo. The whistling shrieks terminate in a sudden, blinding flash. There is no time to brace. The air pressure collapses. The first glide bomb slams directly into the center of the open deck. It punches through the steel plating and detonates deep inside the hull. The explosion rips the vessel open from the inside out. The deck plates bulge upward and peel back like the skin of an orange. The superstructure separates from the hull. A wall of fire erupts from the hatchways, incinerating the crew instantly. Then the rest of the swarm arrives. 3 more bombs strike the engine compartment in rapid succession. The heavy diesel block is crushed. The fuel tanks vaporize. A massive secondary explosion tears the stern apart. The shockwave shears the metal into jagged shrapnel, hurling it hundreds of feet across the river. The bow rises vertically out of the water, engulfed in flames. Another bomb strikes it mid-air. The impact shatters the steel frame. The boat does not sink, it disintegrates. Large sections of the hull are reduced to unrecognizable scraps of burning metal. The radar tower spins through the air and crashes into the mudbank. The water around the impact zone boils violently. The force of the multiple detonations displaces the river, creating a crater of mud and steam where the boat once floated. Bodies, equipment, and steel are atomized in the white-hot center of the blast. The noise is a solid physical wall that flattens the reeds on the shore. Then gravity reasserts itself. Tons of water crash back down, swallowing the burning remains. There is nothing left to save. 0630 hours, Dnipro River. The thunder has ceased. A heavy, ringing silence reclaims the river valley. The violent boiling of the water subsides, replaced by a sluggish, mournful current. The morning mist is gone, burned away by the heat of the explosions, but the air remains thick. A massive column of black smoke rises vertically from the water, staining the gray sky and drifting slowly toward the banks. The surface of the river is a graveyard. A thick, iridescent slick of diesel fuel and hydraulic fluid covers the water from bank to bank. Small fires still flicker on the surface where pools of fuel cling to floating debris. Jagged pieces of grayed steel bob in the current. A twisted radar antenna sticks out of the mudbank like a broken limb. An empty orange life jacket drifts downstream, spinning slowly in an eddy. It is torn. There are no swimmers. There are no cries for help. The devastation is absolute. 30,000 feet above, the white contrails of the French formation begin to disperse in the high-altitude winds. The fighters are already distinct specks on the western horizon. Returning to base, the drone of their engines fades completely. On the shoreline, a heron lands cautiously on a piece of scorched driftwood. It looks at the oily water, then takes flight again. The river continues its path to the sea, washing the scars away.